What is philosophy? Philosophy was particularly derived from the two Greek words philos and sophia. Philos means love or understood as a strong desire for a particular object, and sophia means wisdom or understood as a correct application of knowledge. Philosophy as the love of wisdom was a new way of trying to make sense of the world, where humans have a deep need to gather and to use knowledge in a right manner. Philosophy comes to mind whenever people perceive deep fundamental questions, such as the nature of the world and ourselves, the limitations of human knowledge, their values, and the purpose of life, as well as the boundaries of human understanding, values, and the meaning of life. To have a better understanding that through practicing philosophy, we would be able to think more clearly, behave more intelligently, and thereby contribute to a greater quality of life for all of us. It is an activity of thought or a type of thinking. It asks a lot of questions. It allows you to justify your opinion, and it aims to discover and know the truth. Philosophy is a way of thinking about the world, the universe, and society. It works by asking very basic questions about the nature of human thought, the nature of the universe, and the connections between them. The ideas in philosophy are often general and abstract. Philosophy develops the capacity to see the world from the perspective of other individuals and other cultures. It enhances one's ability to perceive the relationships among the various fields of study, and it deepens one's sense of the meaning and variety of human experience.
Now we're gonna talk about historical origins of philosophy. Philosophia, the love of wisdom, has long been a feature of Western civilization. In 5th century, the golden age of Greek occurred in Athens. The three philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, their works has been taught thousands of years, being core to thought in the Roman world, the Middle Ages, and at the beginning to grow in the Renaissance and later. In the Roman Republic peak, religious thought was essential to philosophy until the Enlightenment. By the late 1800s, questions of language, logic, and meaning had taken center stage. And the 20th century had seen one of the most prolific periods of philosophical activity in history. From science to combat, politics to artificial intelligence, philosophical thought is now applied to practically every aspect of life. However, some students have viewed these studies as distinct disciplines. Studies with a solid empirical component became known as science, a quest for answer. Meanwhile, philosophy has come to be viewed as a style of thinking regarding questions. For example, questions like what happened after I die? Do I get reincarnated? And those questions are belong of one of the three main branches of history of philosophy, which the metaphysics, the study of nature of reality. In the 18th century, questions of how we come to know what we believe we know. That will lead us to the second main branches of philosophy, which the epistemology, the study of nature, and scope of knowledge. The third main branches of philosophy is the value theory. And this branch have been divided into two main branches. The first one is ethics, the study of how humans should live with each other. And the second is the aesthetics, the study of nature of beauty. Most of the mentioned branches are not dated of how long have been these on, yet they live on in in modern philosophical discourse as grounds and limits within which contemporary philosophical issues are explored and contested. Indeed, we build on and depart from the ideas of previous philosophers in order to arrive at fresh and progressive philosophical discoveries. But we do so only by first comprehending their initial views and their reasons for holding them. The term philosophy may apply to formalized secular or religious system of thought, a personal construct, or a communal understanding of proper attitude and conduct. But in each case, the purpose of the system is to answer such questions. When religion fails to fully answer people's questions or order their needs, the people turn to philosophy. People's existential questions traditionally have been answered by the development of religious systems which assured them of existence of supernatural entities, sample gods, divine, divine spirits, and one departed ancestors who created them, cared for them, and watched over them. These belief structures, institutionalized as part of a culture, were to form a cohesive cultural understanding of one's place in world, and the philosophies which developed in response to that understanding either sought to explain it more clearly or replace it with a new paradigm. How did philosophy start? Although it is impossible to determine, it seems probably that philosophy has already established in Egypt by 4000 BCE. The date, the date depictions of gods and afterlife of the field of reeds first began appearing on tomb walls. It developed in Mesopotamia at some point before the time the time the Epic of Gilgamesh was committed to writing between 2150 to 1400 BCE. In India, philosophy developed during the Vedic periods between 1500s to 500 BCE with the Upanishads. At about the same time, Zoroaster was developing his philosophic vision in ancient Persia. While in China, philosophy is first committed to writing during the time of Zhou dynasty, and later developed during the Spring and Autumn period between 772 to 476 BCE, and the Warring States periods between 481 to 221 BCE, and the time associated with the 100 schools of thought. Philosophy in the West begins in Ionian Greek colonies of Asia Minor with Thales of Miletus, who inspired the later writers known as pre-Socratic philosophers whose ideas would then inform and influence the iconic work of Plato and his students Aristotle of Stagira. The topic exactly when and where philosophy first begin to develop is still debated, but the simplest answer is that it would have begun at any place in the distant past. The first time someone asked why they were born, what their purpose was, and how they were supposed to understand their lives. Philosophical schools have continued on this trajectory up through the modern day as people continue to ask the same fundamental questions as their ancient ancestors and work to develop system of thought to answer them.
Post-Aristotelian maintains the dualism between body and soul, Aristotle, in contrast to Plato's dualism theory, maintains that the body and mind or soul are one and the same thing that cannot be separated. According to Aristotle, there is no end to motion. Aristotle asks us what we do to make our lives better, or what it is that makes us feel alive, as he introduces us to the concept of happiness. Aristotle also states that the mind and the body are inextricably linked. Emotions, according to Aristotle, can't be the only factor that determines our success, or ethical in their ideas. The objective of ethics, according to Aristotle, is to become good rather than only to know. Aristotle also says that rather than being generated by applying a law, the proper course of action is determined by the details of a situation. Also, the philosophy of Aristotle's ethics, or study of character, is based on the idea that having a good character is prerequisite of happiness or well-being. Stoicism, apathy or indifference to pleasure. Stoicism is a system of philosophy that originated in the early 3rd century before Christ in ancient Greece and Rome. It's a way of living that encourages positive emotions, lowers negative ones, and helps people develop their character virtues. Hedonism. Eat, drink, and be happy, for tomorrow you will die. The term hedonism refers to a group of beliefs that all have one thing in common. They all revolve around pleasure. Human behavior is determined by desires to increase pleasure and decrease pain, according to psychological or motivational hedonism. Epicureanism, moderate pleasure. Epicureanism is a philosophy based on the ideas of Epicurus. Epicureanism is a type of hedonism that asserts that pleasure is the only thing that matters. The greatest pleasure, according to Epicureanism, is the absence of pain, as it also encourages a simple life.
Good evening, everyone. I am John Madonna. Tonight we're going to discuss about the ancient triumvirate. The meaning of triumvirate is a group of three people sharing power. We're talking about Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. Now, Socrates was a Greek philosopher from Athens who is credited as a founder of Western philosophy, an enigmatic figure. Socrates authored no text and is known mainly through the posthumous accounts of classical writers, particularly his students Plato and Xenophon. Know this, Yothon, who was best known for this: know thyself, and examine life is not worth living. According to Socrates, true wisdom is knowing what you do not know, so an essential part of knowing yourself must be recognizing the limits of your own wisdom and understanding, knowing what you genuinely know and knowing what you have yet to learn. In short, be aware of your limitations, knowing what you are capable of doing. He also said, each person has an immortal soul that surpasses the death of the body, dualistic reality, body which is physical and the soul which is spiritual. Now there are two aspects of reality. The physical world, it is changeable, transient, and imperfect world of senses or matter. Physical world, now there's a bunch of different meanings all about physical world, from Greek philosopher to the present scholars. In simple terms, excluding the theories and other assumptions, physical world, when something is physical, it's really there. You can touch it, taste it, hear it, or smell it. It can be changed. The physical world is all the stuff around you. When your doctor performs a physical, he or she is checking out your physical self. They're probably going to take your temperature, draw blood, listen to your heart and lungs. You may be asked a mental health question or two, but they're not going to ask you how you feel about God or how about your life. This is an example of spiritual world, your life. In physical education, you do physical activity, you move your body to make it healthier. Now the spiritual world, the second one, a belief that there's a realm controlled by divine spirit. Now, and it is unchanging, eternal, perfect, the world of ideas or form. Our, our soul, our self, strive for wisdom and perfection, and the reason is the soul's tool to achieve such state. The soul is a unified, indissoluble, immortal entity that remains the same over time. That is the very likeness of the divine. According to Plato, there are three parts of soul or self or psyche. Before we're going to discuss about the three parts of soul, Plato was an Athenian philosopher during the classical period in ancient Greece, founder of the Platonist school of thought and the academy, the first institution of higher learning in the Western world. Now, according to Plato, three parts. Number one, reason, the divine essence that let us think deeply, or wisdom, make wise choices and achieve a true understanding of eternal truths. The eternal truths is eternal, something that is eternal, that lasts forever, occurring over and over again. In simple terms, is the opposite of the promises of your ex-lover. Now, the truth, always truth, no fiction, no lies, no promises, no fiction. It is vulgar. For example, the earth has always been round, and 4 and 2 plus 2 always be 4. Again, it is the opposite of the promise of your ex-lover. He said he will wait, but he ghosted you. Okay, next one. Reason. In philosophy, the faculty or process of drawing logical inferences, the term reason, is also used in several other narrower senses. Reason is the opposition to sensation, perception, feeling, desire, as the faculty, existence of which denied by empiricists, but which fundamental truths are intuitively apprehended. Now, number 2, physical appetite accounts for the basic biological needs such as hunger, thirst, and sexual desire. Number 3, spirit or passion accounts for the basic emotions such as love, anger, ambition, aggressiveness, empathy. These are in the dynamic relationship with each other in agreement or in conflict. For example, in agreement, you love the deal, you love the agreement, you have the same ambition. That's the basic emotion there. Now, in conflict, the basic is the anger, aggressiveness, sometimes empathy. Now, it is the responsibility of the reason to restore harmony among the three. Harmony, justice in the individual, social, and political level. The next one is Aristotle. Aristotle, he was a Greek philosopher and polymath during classical period in the ancient Greece. Thought that Plato was the founder of the Lyceum, the peripatetic school of philosophy and Aristotelian tradition. He said the mind or itself is tabula rasa, a blank tablet. The self consists of matter and form. Matter is a continuous process of developing and becoming. The process of completion is through the experience, as knowledge is acquired through the senses. This knowledge is true, but this self comes from first cause, the source of all changes, although unchangeable in itself. The meaning of the first cause is a supposed ultimate cause of all events, which does not itself have a cause identified with God. The example of the first cause is, where does the universe come from? Who made the universe? If God made the universe, who made God? Sometimes like that. Like you are looking for the very first source of everything. That is the first cause. The goal, and the last one, the goal of the human self is reached in happiness through moderation or balance of things. That is what Aristotle think about. What is really the happiness of the human life, the balance of things. For example, you have time, you have energy, you have money, everything is in balance, everything goes in a flow state wherein you will feel so ease in your life. That is the happiness of what Aristotle, what's the word? The pact. I think I have covered everything. In summary, there are the three triumvirate, We have triumvirate, the Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, the two aspects of reality, the physical world and spiritual world. Now, in Plato, there are three parts: reason, physical appetite, spirit, or passion. Now, for Aristotle, the mind or self is a tabula rasa, a blank tablet, and this self comes from our first cause. I think that's all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Renabel Auxiliada Kagang, and I will be discussing to you now the pre-Socratic philosophy. Pre-Socratic philosophy refers to Greek philosophers active before Socrates, or contemporaries of Socrates who expounded on the earlier knowledge. So, here are the pre-Socratic schools during the pre-Socratic philosophy: the Ionians, the Pythagoreans, the Elatics, the Pluralists, the Atomists, or the Sophists. So let's talk about the Physicoi. Physicoi, that the ones that deals with physics, grows and develop all things in the universe. Physics is supposed to nomos, which means a concept is the law or human convention. Archie, the Archie is the origin or the beginning. Pherecydes of Cyrus. Pherecydes of Cyrus born was born 600 BC, who explains of cosmos. The pre-Socratic school Ionians have a philosopher named Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Xenophanes, and Heraclitus. Thales, Anaximander, and Anaximenes came from Miletus, while Xenophon came from Colophon, and Heraclitus came from Ephesus. The next is the Pythagoreans. Pythagoras was the Pythagoras rather was the philosopher, well-known philosopher during the Pythagorean pre-Socratic school. Pythagoras studied from Samos to ancient Egypt to Croton. The Pythagorean theorem was invented, and Philosophia, which means love of wisdom and philosophers. Elatics. Elatics philosophers Melissus, Zeno, Parmenides, or Parmenides. Melissus, the way of truth. Zeno, discourse based on reason, the paradox of Arachilus and Tortoise. Next is the pluralists. Anaxagoras, cosmos, generation, nature of human knowledge, structure of physical universe, and uh, Empedocles, water, fire, air, earth, love, and strife. Democritus and Leucippus, which means the atomic theory, or uh, Democritus and Leucippus was were also atomists. Then papyrus, or which means Derveni papyrus, is an ancient Macedonian papyrus roll that was found in 1962, and Strasbourg's Empedocles papyrus. And that's all. Thank you.